Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pop Culture Podcast channel. This is my first recording, so it will probably be shit, but hopefully some of you find it insightful and a slight bit entertaining, so here goes. For this first video, I wanted to compare a show that I finally got around to binge watching this summer, Yellowstone. And I wanted to compare that to one of my all-time favorite movies, The Godfather. I've watched the Godfather series at least a couple dozen times, so I know the story and the characters pretty well. And as I was watching Yellowstone this summer, I had a light bulb moment at some point where I said to myself, this show is exactly like the Godfather. And I told my wife, who was watching with me, oh, this character is like that character, and that character is like this character. But of course, she had never seen The Godfather, so obviously I had to force her to watch it because it's an all-time classic. Though I'm still working on getting her to see Godfather 2. But yeah, I think it will be fun to compare and even contrast some of the characters. For this first video, I'm just going to stick with the Corleone and Dutton family members. And I'm going to start with the comparisons that are most obvious to me, and then go to the ones that are maybe a bit more of a stretch to compare, and try to see the parallels. So with that, let's get into our comparisons of the Corleone family and the Dutton family from Yellowstone. First, we have, of course, the patriarchs Don Vito Corleone and John Dutton. They are the leaders of their family, and that family, both of which consist of 3 boys and 1 girl. On the surface, they are both legitimate family business owners. Vito Corleone owns Genco Olive Oil Company, based out of Little Italy in New York. And John Dutton owns Yellowstone Ranch in rural Montana. But underneath this, there are criminal elements to their enterprises. Both John and Vito are clinging to their old ways of doing things, though perhaps the old way of doing things will harm their businesses in the long run. Vito is reluctant to get into the drug trade. John Dutton hates the new money that is coming into his part of the state, and John refuses to sell or repurpose his land for more economically advantageous ventures. At the beginning of their stories, both Vito and John are respected and feared members of their community, but their failing health and attacks on their family weaken their positions. This first one is pretty straightforward, the 2 main patriarchs of the story. Next, we have the younger sons, Michael Corleone and Casey Dutton. As I said, both are the youngest sons, but at first, both did not want to be a part of the criminal organization. But both Casey and Michael felt forced to join the family business due to attacks on their fathers and their families. Both characters are war veterans. Michael Corleone served in the Marines, and I believe he received a Silver Star for his service. Casey was a Navy SEAL. Both end up killing enemies of their families. Michael kills Sollozzo in Louis' restaurant in the Bronx. Louis' restaurant has the best view in the city. And Casey killed his wife Monica's brother after they attacked the Dutton Ranch. Speaking of wives, both Michael and Casey married outsiders of the family. Michael Corleone married a non-Italian, Kay Adams, and Casey married an American Indian, the aforementioned Monica Long. Both have young sons. And finally, both Michael and Casey are groomed to take over as the leader of the family, skipping over the middle brothers. The middle brothers I'll discuss later on. The next family members are Tom Hagen and Rip Wheeler. Now you might think, wait, I thought you were only doing family members. But even though Tom and Rip do not have the same last name as their siblings, they are still considered family. Perhaps even more family than some of their siblings that are related by blood. And the similarities between these 2 characters made me put them higher on this list. So let's get into Tom Hagen and Rip. Both are orphans that are taken in by the main families in the story. Tom Hagen was befriended by Sonny Corleone when he was 11 or 12 years old. He ran away from his orphanage, and when he did, Sonny brought him to the Corleone home and demanded that Tom be taken in. From that point, the Corleone treated Tom like a son, and Tom Hagen considers Vito Corleone to be his true father. Rip becomes an orphan after his father kills his family, and Rip ends up killing his father. He runs off, and John Dutton finds him hiding in a barn amongst some hay. At that point, John Dutton takes him in. Rip is a young adolescent at the time, just like Tom. Dutton treats Rip like a son, and so much so that I believe he ends up putting Rip in his will, or at least gifting him a house on the Yellowstone ranch. That's how much John Dutton considers Rip to be family. I'll add that Rip and Tom embody more of what it means to be in the family than some of the blood relatives of the Corleones and the Duttons. For example, Tom Hagen. Now this comes directly from the Godfather book. Tom Hagen speaks fluent Sicilian. Michael Corleone couldn't even speak Sicilian that well. Michael even described Tom as more Sicilian than all of the brothers in the family. In Yellowstone, Rip knows the cowboy life more than any of the Dutton sons. He knows the language of the ranch. Finally, both Tom and Rip are the most trusted advisors to the family. Tom Hagen gets raised to the level of consigliere, the family advisor. Rip is John Dutton's right-hand man on Yellowstone Ranch. He is the leader of the ranch hands and carries out a lot of the dirty work that John delegates. Next, we have the second sons, Fredo and Jamie. This one will be quick and obvious, but both Jamie and Fredo are passed over for the younger brothers to become the leader of the family. Both are sort of ostracized at some point. Both are incompetent in ways. Fredo fails to protect Vito when the Sollozzo assassins come after them. And eventually, the Corleone family gets Fredo out of the way and they send him to Las Vegas. In Yellowstone, Jamie is not suited for the ranch life, though I should give Jamie credit for at least being a competent lawyer. He was the Dutton family main legal counsel for some time, but yeah, those are the two second sons. The next couple character comparisons are a bit of a stretch, but here we go. Connie Corleone and Beth Dutton, the daughters of the family. Now let's be honest, Connie doesn't really do much in the story of The Godfather. There is the connection to Carlo, and Connie does come around to be more important in The Godfather 2 and even more so in Godfather 3. But let's be real, Beth Dutton is much more active, has much more agency. Beth has much more impact on the future of the Dutton family than Connie does for the Corleone family. Beth is not married for most of the show. Beth does have alcohol issues. Will Beth have sort of that Carlo character in the Yellowstone show? Probably not, but who knows. Okay, the final character comparison is Sonny Corleone and Lee Dutton. Probably the opposite of the Connie and Beth situation, where Sonny Corleone is a much greater part of the story, where Lee doesn't really do much at all in Yellowstone. But to be fair, both are the eldest sons, both are the heir apparents at the beginning, both get killed in a conflict with their rivals. But again, Sonny was the much bigger character. Lee got killed in the first episode of the Yellowstone series. So that is it for the Familia Corleone and the Dutton family. In a follow-up video, I might go into comparing some of the major characters that are not part of the main families. I was thinking Clemenza from The Godfather, comparing him with Lloyd in Yellowstone, or maybe Rocco Lampone and Jimmy in Yellowstone. And please let me know if I missed anything in our character comparisons. And please let me know if you have any ideas for future comparisons that I can do for the channel. But I'll leave it here for now. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. I created this channel in order to review the new Rings of Power show on Amazon, but I'm happy to get this first video under my belt, and I plan to do much more than review one show. I look forward to talking to you all in a few days after the first episode of Rings of Power comes out. Cheers.